The media and political world are apoplectic over allegations of sexual misconduct against Roy Moore. 3 women allege that he had relationships with them when they were teenagers, and Moore was in his early 30s. One woman, who was 14 at the time, says he initiated a sexual encounter. GOP establishment figures and the left are calling on Moore to withdraw from the race. But Moore has flatly denied the allegations, and he's vowing to fight on. Establishment media figures are salivating over the scandal.
This is Todd Aiken times 5. This is much worse.
If I am running Democratic candidates, I am plastering the party. This is the party of pedophiles. This is the party of physical abusers. So you make him one of the poster boys.
Wait a second. The GOP is a party of abusers? I don't think they want to go there. I've got 2 words for you. Bill Clinton. Now, it was reported this week that another sexual degenerate, Harvey Weinstein, employed a private eye named Jack Palladino, and he was hired to collect dirt on his accusers. And by the way, you know who Palladino used to work for doing that same job? Bill Clinton. You got it. And then there's David Boies, the Democratic super lawyer who represented Al Gore and gave millions to the Clintons and to the Obamas, and was also employed by Weinstein. He, too, helped suppress stories of Harvey's misdeeds using what the New Yorker called a network of spies. And I haven't even gotten into the rape allegations against Bill Clinton. Of course, in the sex scandals involving Weiner, Spitzer, Barney Frank, need I go on? And the GOP is the party of sexual abuse? Get out of here. Last time I checked, Weinstein, Spacey, and Louis C.K. weren't exactly hanging out at CPAC. You see the left shield and protect their own to the very end. Oh, and by the way, Democrat Senator Bob Menendez is currently in the middle of a federal trial for bribery. And right now, no one, and I mean no one on the left, is calling for him to resign. By the way, when Chuck Schumer was asked about this recently, he just kind of refused to answer. He kind of moved on to the next question. And who can forget that after impeachment, remember that impeachment vote of Bill Clinton, the Democrats raced up to Capitol Hill right after the vote, and they held what was the equivalent of a White House pep rally for Bill Clinton. The only thing they didn't have was balloons for that thing. And meanwhile, Republicans, they throw their candidates overboard the moment an allegation is made, even if it's 38 years old. Regarding Roy Moore, as I stated last night, he was not the candidate I supported in this race. I supported Mo Brooks. So my commentary doesn't come from a place of advocacy, but rather I want to lay out the facts as we have them. This is Moore himself answering the charges from our own Sean Hannity today on the radio.
These allegations are completely false and misleading. I don't know Ms. Corpman from anybody. I've never talked to her, never had any contact with her. You understand this is 40 years ago, and after my return from the military, I dated a lot of young ladies. I don't remember ever dating any girl without the permission of her mother.
Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no. If I did, I'm not going to dispute anything, but I don't remember anything like that.
Let me go back to Korfman for a minute here, because this is the issue here. She gives specific instances.
It never happened, and I don't even like hearing it because it never happened, and they're doing this a month away, 4 weeks away, after 40 years in public service. I've run 5 successful campaigns, statewide campaigns, 3 in the county. This has never been brought up. If you abuse a 14-year-old, you shouldn't be a Senate candidate. I agree with that, but I did not do that.
And you can say unequivocally you never dated anybody that was in their late teens like that when you were 32?
It would have been out of my customary behavior. That's right.
In other words, you don't recall ever dating any girl that young when you were that old?
I've said no.
And you think that's inappropriate, too? That's what you're saying?
Inappropriate, yes.
Now, he did deny it, but some of the answers were a little awkward, particularly that one about asking mothers' permission to date their daughters. I mean, honestly, look, we don't know what went on almost 40 years ago, and there's no way to prove or disprove what these women allege. These are seedy and really horrible charges, and they're very, very troubling. But this is now a political question. It's not a legal question. Should Ramore remain in the race? And would Alabama voters still support him? I asked my Alabama listeners on radio that very question today, and here's what they said.
I'm definitely still voting for Roy Moore, and it's a hit piece. Roy Moore will win by an even larger margin now. Being attacked by the Washington Post is the equivalent of being endorsed by Donald Trump.
We would rather vote for a man that has allegations against him that certainly come from a dubious source.
We're not stupid. We see what's going on. We see this. They did the same thing to Donald Trump 30 days before the election.
We had a board full of calls, the entire show on this topic, because we have a lot of listeners in Alabama. And I was really struck that not one caller said they would drop Moore. They wouldn't show up and vote for him. Not one. The timing of these allegations just weeks before the election is a little suspicious, to say the least. And the fact that the Washington Post, whose editorial board opposes Moore's candidacy and then some, is the source, and it's the source of the bombshell, should give us some pause. And that's the angle.